Hey guys, Sarah with Three Raptor Consulting here, visiting with you today on how to have meaningful conversation or meaningful small talk, whatever you would like to call it, however you'd like to define it. And I can tell you, small talk is not something that I am great at. Coming up with just random questions of, oh, did you see how the Thunder played this weekend? Or, oh, did you see how this football team played? Is not my strong point, not my forte. It's not something I pay attention to. So I have developed other ways, other methods for meaningful small talk and really focusing on creating connections with people. So most often when we are trying to use small talk, we are somewhere where it's a work event and we're trying to create a connection, right? Well, the number one tip I got from my mom, who is definitely an introvert and much shyer than I am. And her tip was people love to talk about themselves. And it's really true, they do. So I've watched my mom over the years at numerous events, and she's always helped me with my career. And so she was always the person that I would have on hand at events when we would have special guests coming. The person who would walk around with them, make introductions, or just basically keep them busy and occupied and happy and content until I could get to meet with them. And I was like, how does my mom, who's introverted, manage to carry on these conversations for 20, 30 minutes and keep people engaged? It was simple. She asked them questions about themselves, and then she listened, and then she asked questions that built off of what they said. So she would look for common ground. She would ask about children. Did they have children? She would ask what they specifically did at their job, and then ask for details about their job. She would ask about what was the latest book they read, or just anything different, or depending on what the event was, she would connect it back to the event. So one time we were at an event where we were celebrating the 20th anniversary of a nonprofit, and a lot of funders came. Well, she would be with the funders and she would say, we appreciate the support so much. My daughter has talked about everything you've empowered her to do. So tell me, what made you want to start working at this foundation? Or what are some other great projects this foundation has funded? And the conversations would just go on and on from there. And I thought, you know what? I can learn a lot from my mom, because walking up and starting a conversation with somebody is not hard for me. So number one tip is ask people about themselves. Ask them to talk about what they like, what their hobbies are. Do they have any kids? Are they family oriented? Do they like pets? Listen, you can talk about pets for hours, and it's a great way to really create a very personal, very meaningful connection without sharing too much personal information, right? I talk about my dogs all the time because then people feel like they really know me. I write about my dogs, but do they really know me, or do they know about my dogs? It's totally cool if you know everything about my dogs, right? So those are just some tips to get you prepared for that. Another great thing that I've done is if I'm going to a networking event, I kind of try to find out what the theme of that networking event is, or if it's an event, what the theme is. And I try to find out who's going to be there, and then I make a very strategic plan for 2 to 3 people that I really want to meet that night and what information I want to learn from them. That way I have a very set goal. I'm not focused on quantity, I'm focused on quality, and I can enjoy myself at the event and just get to know who I get to know, right? Whoever the universe means for me to get to know, as well as those 2 or 3 people that I set out to meet. And I always make sure that I research them. I know something about their career, the business that they own, and I always have a really good question that I want to ask them. For example, where I live, there's a man who's owned several very successful businesses, and he is always willing to answer my business questions. He's even willing to go to coffee with me to talk over an idea until I understand exactly what he means. And so I always, the first time I met him, I kind of had a feeling that he would be like that, just the personality and the vibe that he gave off. So I made sure to really listen to his presentation and then follow up and ask questions about his presentation. And let me tell you, that worked. So if there's a presentation, ask about the presentation. Ask personal questions. Research the person and know a little bit about where they work if you can, and that's really going to help create those connections. But the key to creating meaningful small talk is to ask a question and then listen. More often than not, we are working really hard to come up with a response. We're so worried about how we're going to sound. So we're thinking, what can I say? What can I say? What's funny? What's got a lot of charisma? What's going to make me stand out? Then we don't listen to what the person's saying. Well, I can tell you, I make my brain just stop. I go into what I call writer's mode, where I'm observing people, I'm watching what they're doing, and I'm listening to what they're saying. So it may take me a couple of seconds to respond to them, but it's because I'm processing what they said and coming up with a response that's natural, not thinking, how am I going to impress them? And that's the other secret to making meaningful conversation, is to not try to impress anybody. We're not here to impress, we're here to learn, right? And so I always go in humble and just very genuine and very authentic with, what can I learn from you? And it could be somebody who's literally straight out of college starting their first business. And for the whole conversation, my thought is going to be, what can I learn from you? Because I learned a long time ago when I worked with kids that some of the best life lessons I've ever learned have come from 4-year-olds. So, never judge a book by its cover. Never judge a source of information by where it comes from. I've gotten so mad at peers before when they're like, I don't want to talk to that person. I don't want to do mentoring with them. They have nothing they can teach me. And it's like, The only time I've ever thought, oh, could I have a different mentor, is if that person had already mentored me before. Because again, I want to learn as much as I can and meet as many people as I can. And because, in mentoring situations, if you can have a couple different mentors, that's better than sticking with the same one, right? So those are just some ideas and tips to help you create meaningful conversations. I hope you enjoy these videos. I hope you're finding them helpful. Check out the resources on our website and follow us on social media.